Okay, awesome. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to our March First Friday webinar. This month, we have Dr. Ian Miller from Central Washington here to talk to us about the ACUHO-I Academic Initiatives Experience. A couple of things before we get going. First of all, this is the first time that we're doing First Fridays on Zoom webinars. So just please grant us grace as we kind of figure out how that's working. Something that would also be super helpful is when you fill out the feedback at the end of the webinar, if you can just include some feedback as to like whether or not we prefer this webinar style or whether or not we prefer meeting style. It's super up to just kind of what the membership prefers. So that would just be helpful feedback for us as we keep going. During the presentation, please feel free to throw questions in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll definitely get to those toward the end. And then before you log off, also, like I said, don't forget to fill out that feedback form that I'll post in the chat kind of as we're wrapping up. Also in that post will be the link to the professional development email. We are always looking for First Friday presenters, especially as we kind of look at the next few months and as things kind of get prepped and ready for summer and for fall opening. We want to get those scheduled out if people are interested and know what they might want to do. So just please feel free to shoot an email to prodev@northwestacuho.org and we will get you scheduled. So last thing is that this webinar is being recorded because it's webinar style. Attendees are not being recorded, so you're free to live your best life. But it will be recorded and it will be posted on the YouTube later today. So with that, I will go ahead and pass it off to Ian.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Friday in March. So I wanted to be able to present a webinar on my experience attending the ACUHO-I's Academic Initiatives Conference. The conference that I most recently attended was back in October 14th and 15th of 2020. This was the first virtual academic initiative conference experience that I've attended, and wanted to be able to share my experience, thoughts, as well as provide some information to individuals who may be considering attending the conference this upcoming year in 2021, as well as for those who may have previously attended but haven't attended for a while and are thinking about kind of getting back into the conference experience. So before I get into things too much, I do want to give a thank you and a shout out to Northwest ACUHO for making this experience possible. They offered a scholarship opportunity at the end of last year, and it was something that I had seen pop up in my email through the social media and through their announcements. And initially, I wasn't going to apply. I kind of hem-hawed and kind of somewhat at the last minute, I thought, might as well. What's the worst that could happen, right? And so I sat down and submitted my scholarship application, and lo and behold, I was selected as one of the scholarship recipients. And so I was awarded a $95 scholarship through Northwest ACUHO, and that paid for my conference registration. I had the opportunity to select one of the October conference series. I selected the academic initiatives, but it was a nice opportunity through the scholarship to be able to decide and select which particular conference may have spoken to me the most. And so really say thank you to Northwest ACUHO and the opportunities that those scholarships provide. And so I encourage folks to apply to scholarships when and wherever they see them, whether that's through Northwest ACUHO, ACUHO-I, or other professional organizations, because certainly it's those professional development opportunities that has allowed me to be able to give back to the association. And as Becca talked about, encourage folks to really engage. There are a number of opportunities to engage through Northwest ACUHO. I know we just came off of the annual conference, which was a great experience. There are a number of committees, the Professional Development Committee, as she talked about, diversity, social justice, diversity, inclusion, membership, and communication. And so these really are highlight the opportunity to get to know folks and get to be able to get involved in the region. So again, really highly encourage folks to select a committee, be involved, apply to scholarships. You never know where your journey will take you. So I wanted to give kind of an overview structure of the conference. As again, this was the first virtual conference that I attended in 2020 as COVID-19 was impacting a lot of the in-person experiences. And so organizations like ACUHO-I, like so many others, were having to very quickly adapt to how are we going to be able to offer these experiences of development and engagement and learning just in a different way. And so they offered the 2-day conference in a virtual format. And I really liked the format. It was broken up into live sessions, which were about 45 minutes. They had some extended live sessions that were a little bit longer. And then they also had some pre-recorded sessions. So it really allowed accessibility for presenters as well as attendees. So presenters could simply record a session, have those uploaded, and attendees could view those, or presenters could present their information live. I really also appreciated the length of time. 45 minutes was, for me at least, the kind of the perfect amount of time. Past about 45 minutes, my ability to continually engage virtually started to wane. And so I think that 45 minutes was kind of that sweet spot. The other thing that I appreciated too about the virtual format was the recording of the live sessions. And so it allowed me an opportunity to go back and view the sessions of interest that I may not have had the opportunity to do so. As many of us know, when you attend an in-person conference on those session rotations, you have to pick one session, and there might be 2 or 3 in a particular block. That usually seemed to happen to me when I attended a conference. Was there'd be one block where I'm like, I want to go to all the sessions, but I can't be at 10 places at once. And so this really allowed me that opportunity to essentially be kind of at 10 places at once and on my own time and schedule. And so it allowed me to get a lot of information that I probably wouldn't have otherwise. And so from an accessibility standpoint, I really appreciated that opportunity. The sessions were organized by a topic as well as professional level. And again, I really appreciated this as I still kind of classify myself as a mid-level professional, mid to senior, I guess. And so it just really helped me to hone in on what information was going to be the most applicable to me and my experience. Not only related to a particular topic, but again, I could overlap that with where I'm at within my own professional development. And so day one was a lot of learning. There was a wonderful welcome that I'll talk about a little bit more in depth because I took a lot away from that. And then there were the 4 educational sessions that were broken up throughout the day. There were some identity network connection opportunities, as well as a faculty and residence opportunity. And so the faculty and residence was a wonderful opportunity for experts in the field to be able to sign up and provide mentorship, answer questions of individuals or institutions who may be interested in living learning communities, residential curriculum, any kind of a broad spectrum. And so that was wonderful to have that opportunity to participate in as a faculty member as well as a participant. Day 2 had additional educational session rotations. There was a great closing, and then kind of some fun activities to keep that engagement in a kind of a lighthearted way. And so again, overall, I thought the balance of educational learning as well as having that interpersonal dialogue with folks really came together in this pretty quick 2-day virtual conference. And so a little bit about me again. my name's Ian, my pronouns are he, him, his, and this is really my journey and my experience through this particular conference. So I mention that as my lens may be different than other folks, but hopefully by the end of the presentation, you'll be able to know a little bit about the conference, whether or not it's for you, and how it's changed over the years, because certainly it has developed and continues to develop as new information is made available. I serve as the Director of Residence Life at Central Washington University. I have a number of personal passion areas, including living learning communities, residential curriculum, diversity inclusion, student staff training, professional staff training. And so I bring all of these interests into my attendance of this particular conference. And so when I attend particular professional development experiences such as these are some of the areas that I'm focused on when selecting presentations, or when I'm listening to keynote speakers, is how I can take the information that they are presenting and apply it to these particular areas. I have a lot of experience with the Academic Initiatives Committee and Conference. I've attended as an attendee for several years and have enjoyed my experience. The Academic Initiatives Conference used to be the Living Learning Programs Conference, which really primarily focused on LLCs. And over the years, they've broadened it to encompass overall academic initiatives, which has been great. And so if folks may have been an early adopter and have attended some of the LLP or LLC conference way back when, and haven't attended for a while, since it's broadened its scope, this now may be an opportunity for you to kind of re-dip your toe into that experience. I've also been fortunate enough to be a presenter over the years on different topics, residential curriculum and living learning programs, as well as serving as a faculty in residence the last couple of years. And so it's really been fun for me to have the different perspectives by attending these conferences. And I would say for those that may have not attended before, if you're planning to be a first-time attendee, I think that there is certainly something for everyone, and encourage you to think about attending. So the opening session was something that helped to, again, kind of shape my frame of reference throughout the entirety of the conference. And the Academic Initiatives Conference, as well as many other conferences, tend to use their opening session and a welcome to set the theme and direction for the conference, which this was certainly no different. The speaker was engaging and brought up a relevant topic in kind of today's culture and what was happening. It was timely and relevant. And so, the title of the session was How Residence Life Professionals Are the Right Leaders to Push the Needle Right Now. And so from the get-go, it really was a focus on equity and inclusion, how all of our work and engagement with students, how can we bring equity inclusion into all the facets of our work. And one of the questions that was posed really kind of struck me was answering the how question, which I had not necessarily thought about as much. And the presenter talked about it from this perspective of, we know what to do, so we know that we need to increase and think about equity inclusion. We know why we need to do it, that it's a benefit to our faculty, staff, and students. We know all the what there is to all of these things. But the tougher question was and is, how do we achieve the what? How do we go about implementing all of the things that we know we should be doing? How do we engage in conversations? How do we actually make change happen beyond simply stating the obvious of, we support diversity and inclusion? That's great. And then how do you show, how do you do that? How do you demonstrate that? And so from the very beginning, it was that was always in the back of my mind of, okay, I am on our campus thinking about starting a new living learning community. How do I infuse equity and inclusion in this new LLC? How do I make it a part of our culture, that it's natural, that it's not just, we're going to do this thing and then we're going to put equity and diversity on top of this thing. We're going to try to infuse everything that we do. And so that continues to be a question that I think about on a daily basis and engage with my staff as we engage in our work. Free speech was the other topic. And again, this was happening in October of 2020. And so very, very relevant with things, where things were, and thinking about on our campuses, how do we create environments that are safe and are a learning environment that allow for free speech. And sometimes that can be difficult. And so really thinking about, given the parameters of our individual campuses, the cultures within our states and regions, again, how do we actually set up those practices, procedures, culture on our campus to achieve the results that we want to achieve. And so again, really thought-provoking kind of 80,000 foot view questions of, okay, how do I take this and then really apply it to the nitty-gritty of, I've got a student that wants to put something in their window. How is that going to impact our community? It was a great case study question from the annual conference in Northwest Dakota. And so with all of that, it was also talking about support and space at all levels of supervision. And this is one of the things that also struck me was, within an organization, there are so many levels of supervision and leadership, and there can't just be one level of support or space with regard to equity and inclusion. So it can't just be the hall director that is really passionate about equity and inclusion and no one else in the organization. It has to really be everyone from the appointing authority to the frontline staff, the RA. There has to be avenues and opportunities for individuals to feel comfortable and safe, to have that trust and knowledge of, if I have an idea or if I have a question or a concern, here are the appropriate ways to be able to convey those questions, that feedback, opportunities for change, at all levels. And this is where the speaker really jumped into the responsibility that leadership really has. And they focused on the president and the administration of an institution, but I would also argue that for residence life and housing departments, that it's the senior housing officer, it's the directors, all of those folks that are seen to be those in power and authority, related to action versus statements. Again, they brought it back to, a lot of institutions will say we support diversity, we support inclusion, and that's wonderful. Those statements should be out there, but then how can you show and demonstrate what are the actions by those leaders and those institutions that really, when students set foot on campus for orientation, that they can say, oh, here's this tangible thing that the president or that the senior housing officer has done to really show and support that we value diversity and inclusion. And so really aligning those actions with those statements. And again, it's one of those things where it can't only be when bad things happen. And so it can't always just be in response to vandalism or a protest or these kinds of things. There has to be a proactive approach to it in addition to the response aspect. And so I really appreciated that context from the speaker to be able to kind of holistically think about how diversity and inclusion and equity really play into all the things that we do. And it started me thinking about what I do in my work. How do I actually take action to the things that I say? And when we look at our residence life staff, it has to start from well before our professional staff get into the position. So it has to start in grad schools. It has to, what are grad schools teaching? What is those experiences? What are we providing our experiences when we hire an RA as a student staff, even before they get to grad school? How are our position descriptions written? If we say we value diversity and inclusion, is there anything in our position description that actually is related to diversity and inclusion? If there's not, then perhaps an evaluation of that may need to take place. How do we engage in our recruitment and selection process? Is our processes allowing for that ability to seek out and attract diverse candidates? And so again, getting different perspectives along the way is super, super important, along with training. Sometimes I think one of my takeaways is oftentimes we looked at training as the answer to everything. And sometimes training can only get us so far. We have to do some of that work before we even get to training. And so as I continue to think about my own organization and my own staff, I really thought and took away from this opening session keynote a lot of the topics that they presented. And again, this really framed my reference of the entirety of the conference. So I want to go through just kind of a couple of the educational sessions. The next couple of slides is not designed to again kind of do a full overview of each session. That would take way too long. I do have a reference slide at the very end, so if you're curious about the information, you're more than welcome to contact and reach out to the presenters and access that information. But it shows a sampling of some of the things that I selected and kind of why I selected. And so as you can see, residential curriculum and navigating the pandemic was a session. We're in it, and so we have a residential curriculum on our campus. And I was like, okay, how do we operate in this new environment? So that was a great opportunity to listen and see what other institutions were doing. Impacts of living learning communities and engagement. It's one thing to have an LLC on your campus, but how do you actually engage students and how do you make them successful was something that we continue to try to understand and improve on our campus. Recruitment for LLC students and being able to engage campus partners with LLCs was another session that I appreciated and enjoyed. They also offered the Professionals of Color Network towards the end of the day, and so it allowed professionals of color to engage with one another, and I got to meet some amazing folks and just have some conversations about their experiences and how they're engaging within the work that we do. Day two was again kind of similar sessions, and so it was you'll see kind of this overall theme, right, of residential curriculum and LLCs, and so it was an opportunity to kind of get together with folks and really just talk about whatever was on our mind and related to curriculum. And so there wasn't necessarily a set agenda. There was just come and have a conversation. One of the other sessions that I appreciated as well was burnout related to resident assistants. I think that even today, we're still trying to better understand and how to support our RAs. How do we support our hall directors? How do we support our mid-level folks? Really everyone in our organizations. And so I appreciated the tips and conversations related to resident assistants because I then could translate that on other levels of my staff. We also had a program with regard to strategies and data, assessment and evaluation. You can't have a conference without having some assessment and evaluation. And so wanted to make sure, I always want to attend a session to see how people are assessing and evaluating their programs. What can I learn from their experiences? How can I translate that information to our program? And the closing session was great because it really helped to wrap up a lot of the the overall sessions and themes of the conference. And so looking at learning communities and what are learning communities going to be looking like in the future, whether that's related to a particular topic, is that related to a particular group of students, what is that going to look like on individual campuses. And so throughout the course of the 2 days, the number of sessions and information was a lot. And so it has taken me quite a while just to kind of synthesize all of that information, kind of that conference high and conference overload, as many of us feel when we engage in those experiences. This was no different, except it was just virtual. In some ways, I appreciate it because I could run downstairs, grab a bite to eat, get a coffee, and run back upstairs and not have to miss anything. Unlike a conference center where it's like a mile to the nearest bathroom. So some of my takeaways from this particular conference was that, again, the theme for this year was diversity, inclusion, equity, social justice. And so that really, again, framed the lens that I was viewing the conference and kind of a lot of my takeaways. There were a number of areas of interest, again, residential curriculum, living learning communities, research. And that's what I think I've appreciated about the change of this particular conference over the years has been it no longer simply focuses on living learning programs or living learning communities. It's broader than that. So now it can apply to really any academic initiative, not only the practical side of what institutions and schools are doing, but the theory behind it. What are new theories and what are new research practices out there? And so it really starts to combine all of those things, which is certainly, I think, a benefit to all of us in our field. So staff training, roundtables, showcases, and panels, I think that these were formats and things that I would like to see kind of more of, and sometimes those organic conversations, I get more out of those type of settings than a structured just, okay, we're going to talk about this topic, versus, hey, what are people seeing out there? What are some of the challenges? And then you kind of discover something that you didn't think about, or, oh, yep, I am so glad that you're experiencing that same thing, because it's nice to know somebody's right there too. And so, again, it's a conference like any other that I truly believe you get out of that experience what you put in. So when you think about it, whether it's this conference or any other, really think about the amount of energy and time that you want to invest in what you're looking to get out of that experience. And so, with all of that, certainly I recommend attending the conference at least once. I think that volunteering during the conference is also a great way to get exposure, meet new people. You don't have to be an expert in anything. You can moderate a session. It's really nice. They give you a nice little script, and you can get to know presenters. There's a researcher, Karen Inkelis, who I've now met like 3 times over the course of these conferences. I'm certainly a huge fan. She's a researcher. She's an ACUHO-I award winner. And so I was one of those people. I'm like, hey, can you sign my book? I actually have 5 copies of your book. Can you sign each one of those for me? And so, again, you never know who you're going to meet, and it's just a fun opportunity. You can submit program proposals. I think sometimes that can be seen as daunting, but if you're doing research, if you're a grad student, if you're doing a dissertation, if you're wanting to partner with research, submit a program proposal on what you're doing, what the information has been, what you're doing on your campus. Share that with others, because I almost guarantee that there's somebody out there that is going to be interested in that and wanting to know more information about what you're doing and how they can maybe translate that to their campus. I certainly want to give a shout out to all of the folks that coordinated and set up the conference. Esme and Jeff were co-chairs during the time that I attended in 2020. There were a number of subcommittees, everything from programming, local arrangements, faculty development, marketing. And so I know Julia is this year's one of the program co-chairs. This year I'm continuing to help out with the program committee, and so if you're interested in getting more information, please reach out to those folks. I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any of your questions about getting involved. Stay tuned for more information to come out about the Academic Initiatives Conference. It's certainly going to be a great learning opportunity. I just wanted to share a reference list with all of the things, presentations that I was able to attend, in case folks were curious about getting more information or more in-depth knowledge about those particular presentations. And so, yeah, that is the information that I have for you, and I appreciate you for joining me. Certainly take any questions folks may have.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. So I am putting the link to the First Friday feedback and the professional development email in the chat. And with that, we are open for any kind of questions. So you're free to either pop them in the chat, either to panelists and attendees or just to panelists, or you can throw them in the Q&A box. Or if anyone has similar experience with either this conference or like similar conferences that they want to share, we'd be also super open to that. Awesome. Well, we can hang out here in case anyone wants to kind of stay on and chat once the group is gone. But other than that, I just want to say thank you again, Ian, for this presentation. That was super interesting. And it's cool to hear about how kind of other conferences have been working and how that information's been getting out. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for coming. And this will be posted this afternoon. Thanks, y'all.
Enjoy the rest of your day and have a great weekend. Thanks for coming.